Good afternoon, folks. It's a beautiful day here in South Georgia, and I've been trying to think of just how I wanted to do this video, and I'm going to title it The War on the Public. It keeps being that this government that we support has wars on every friggin' thing you can think of, and too often, from what I've seen in my 62 years and fixing to be 3, is they do me more harm than they do me good. And while I didn't vote for Trump, I did listen to his speeches quite often, and he had commented that he was going to deregulate this and deregulate that, and he was going to be every man's president, and everyone was just going to see prosperity in the land of the milk and honey, and uh, all this that was going to happen. And I ain't, to be honest, I ain't seen none of it. But uh, I've seen a lot of deregulation, but none of it affects the public. It's all for corporations and shit. And I'd kind of like to see a deregulation of the war against drugs, especially drugs that are beneficial and helping so many people in this opioid crisis that we're having with addiction and people ODing and suiciding. And I'm not seeing it from anyone in Washington, not just Trump. But I had a friend this morning that made a comment about, couldn't blame it all on Trump. Whenever it comes to a position that he has appointed, a chair or whatever you call it, and everything else that is running one of the departments, and they do something, it's in his name, whether he is doing it personally or not. He is allowing it to happen. He can tell them, no, you're not going to do that. And in most cases, he would win out. And so if it's done while he's on watch, and that's where it is that he's the one on watch, and not only him, it's like I say, we've got a system to where we're supposed to be able to fight back. It's not always possible, but we are supposed to be able to. The part of it, like I said, the war on drugs and the war on the public is all the deregulations with the banks and releasing public lands back into the uh, free field of oil drilling and mining and lumbering and everything else. I don't know. My land here, I'd always said I trap uh, wild animals a number of different times, and I have, more in excess and all that. Whenever they start doing harm to my land, it's uh, time to do something. But I caught a fox some years back, and I relocated it. Whenever I called the state about relocating it, they said the state of Georgia is not permitted to relocate a wild fox in case it's carrying rabies or whatever, and all this kind of crap that they got into. So I relocated it myself, but the ranger had told me just to shoot it in the head and go on about my business. And I don't know, there's just something about it didn't set right with me then, but I did it, and then for the longest time I didn't see any foxes. And hawks and other things around are things that I like my grandkids to be able to see. And so whether it's killing a wolf or killing whatever, that is, it's not all for man's benefit. This world was put here for everything, and to keep it in balance, I think we're finding more and more every day that it needs to stay in balance. And we need to, if we're going to deregulate something, it ought to be for the benefit of the people and not for the corporations. And there ought to be more regulations on the corporations that are polluting our land and destroying our legacy to our children. And that's just my thought on it, that I've seen so many billions of dollars put into the war against drugs and the war against terrorism, which you could narrow it down to, it's turned into just a war against religion. And it's not benefiting any of the public that I can see. It's harming us more in radicalizing people and turning them against what the USA is and what it stood for, and not allowing people to immigrate and come in and share in the joys and prosperities that we do still have a little of here in the United States, though gradually more and more of it is being taken away from us. And it's just very frustrating to an old man. I'm kind of simple and everything else, but whenever you declare war on a plant and try to, that is beneficial to people, has never showed that it was harmful, and I just get quite upset. I look at the fact that as soon as the drug companies see that my ginger or my turmeric or some of the other herbs and things that help relieve the pain that I go through on a daily basis, that they're going to try and make them illegal in some way. And people might get upset if they can't bake gingerbread house for Christmas, but I don't know. I feel like I'm probably on the downside of my life, but I still want to fight for those that come after me. And like I said, whenever it comes to the public domain, the lands and such as that, the pipeline that Trump okayed, I kind of feel like they ought to take all that contaminated soil and move it down to Florida where his golf course is, and take that good golf course land and move it and fill up the hole where they had to dig out the contaminated soil. And if there's any contaminated water, it ought to be shipped up to New York to Trump Tower and let them drink that up there for a while. And the only water that could be used there at the White House would be whatever he has contaminated with his reckless conduct, and the EPA guy and all that. I believe, you know, if you pass a law and it harms someone, I just believe you ought to be held responsible. We put those idiots up there in Washington, though I can honestly say there's not a one up there right now that I have voted for. Very few in local government or in my state that I have voted for. And I don't know, I just think if you do something that harms someone, you ought to be held responsible. And it's getting away at this ego trip of I'm the president and I'm going to be on the cover of Time magazine. Well, I hope they never put him on it, as much as he has condemned the media and everything else. They ought not to give him any damn airtime at all. See how he likes that. That would be a boycott of all of them that I would sure enjoy. And now the FCC is going to try and quit funding PBS. That's our voice. And if they need the money, they ought to, FCC ought to just be done away with, close that office, all them people go home, and leave public broadcasting on the air. And that'd be a simple way to finance that. Because with them allowing all the news medias to be done the way they are, where there's very few competitions or anything anymore in it. Like I say, I'm not the smartest guy, but it was at one time there were regulations that they couldn't own so many, like a newspaper, radio, and a television show. Well, now a television station, now they're doing away with that, where they can control the whole media in any given section of the country. And what do you think we all fixing to get to hear? And especially if they can do away with PBS. I enjoy watching the NewsHour, though I've raised hell at them about the fact that they had one show on that covered kratom, but the NewsHour, whenever they covered addiction, never once mentioned kratom, that has saved thousands of lives now. I don't know, I'm ready to drink another beer or two and get a little bit more done. I've been having a good day, but that was my rant and rave for today. And I don't think I got everything in there I wanted to, but I think that's long enough for now. Blessings, brothers and sisters, and I hope we can get through all this. Have a great day.